Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and today I have Carla Kaufman Sloan on the podcast. We share so many stories of signs and connections. Her son is on the other side. His name is Calder, and she shares her story from grief to becoming a medium. We do experience some technical difficulties because the vibes are so high. We pull it all together, and it's just amazing conversation. If you're here and you're listening, I don't believe it's by accident. And let's begin. Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and this is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here today with my friend Carla, and she has been on the podcast with not this podcast, but another podcast with me before. That is how we met. And welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we found each other we've already experienced some technical difficulties because the energy is so high. Carla has her son Calder is on the other side, along with my daughter Kira. If you are new here to this podcast, welcome. We're glad that you're here, or if you've been following along. What the Feel Good Always podcast is about is it's really bringing this higher energy onto the earth. My daughter at 15 years old, Kira Bradley, she died in a fatal UTV accident, and really that opened me up to this wild amount of connection. And obviously it was heartbreaking, but this wild amount of connection, and that we are really ascending on earth. And that was part of why she had to leave, to be able to bring this wisdom through to me. And what has happened in this time is that I end up doing this podcast, and all these people are finding me, and Carla found me. We found each other, and her son Calder, who is also on the other side. He is one of these beautiful beings of light that is helping us, right? Because we're here in human bodies, and we feel this really massive energy coming. And so if you're here, I don't believe it's by accident. I believe that we all are here for a reason. So if you're listening, thank you. And we're going to get started. Oh my gosh, hold on.
What is that?
Oh, there you are. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is
Wait, it's
so funny.
it's hilarious. And then when I
Okay.
went,
Okay.
my phone was on. Can you hear me?
111. I can. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm going to somehow just put this back in here. I don't even know where it cut out. But what I was saying is that your son Calder is on the other side, and Kira, and the vibes are so high here today that we have had a hard time even getting on the internet. And then they kicked us off at 111 your time, which is amazing. Yeah. 111. And that's been the constant theme. In real time here on Earth. Yesterday was 111, and my family, my husband, all morning we've been having 111, 111, and I just think it's really interesting. It's like, well, we're trying to get a podcast out, when the vibes are high. Wow, yeah. Thanks for holding on, everyone, if you're listening, and we are going to get started. Hopefully, I'm always surrendered to whatever the team wants. They kicked me right off. I've never had my internet shut down like that, but very high vibes here today.
Very
you can
high.
feel it.
Yeah, I can feel it. And the funny thing is, I would have never looked at the time if that hadn't happened when I got the text.
Yeah. I love it. What it is here, so here on this podcast, it's like we find each other. It's this really high energy, which is what I was talking about. I was talking about this high frequency that's coming onto the earth, how we're all finding each other, and how if you're listening to this podcast, it's not by accident. How your son on the other side and my daughter on the other side, they're really helping bring this energy through to us. And even as we begin to talk about it and we begin to share these things, the vibes get so high that it just shuts the internet down. And I believe that they have the ability to do that, to turn it on and off, and just for fun, to make it fun for us and for anyone that's listening. So if you're listening, you could probably feel that vibration, that really high energy if you're there connected enough. And if you don't, that's okay too. Something's happening just by listening. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and read your bio, so that we can get this conversation going before this little team of angels does any more mischief. Okay, so Carla Kaufman Sloan is an Emmy-winning writer, television producer, author, nonprofit founder, and practicing medium whose life and work were profoundly reshaped by the unexpected death of her 7-year-old son, Calder. After years of producing national daytime television for major networks, Carla's world shattered with the loss of her firstborn. In the depths of grief, she embarked on a relentless search for the truth, questioning everything she believed about death, consciousness, and whether love truly survives beyond the physical world. What unfolded was a powerful series of signs, messages, and undeniable connections that transformed her understanding of death and revealed an ongoing energetic relationship with those we love. She is the author of a deeply moving memoir that traces this journey through grief, doubt, and awakening. And alongside her spiritual work, she's the co-founder of the Caleb and Calder Sloan's Awesome Foundation, which serves children and families impacted by loss through education, grief support, and community aid. She lives in Miami with her husband, Chris, their son, Caleb, and their dog, Charlie, and continues to write and share through her social media and Substack, where she offers reflections on grief, healing, and all of the unseen threads that bind us.
Yes,
so that's you. And we have a lot in common. We also have our foundation. I loved reading about you, the foundation, and all of the work that you're doing. So I'd like to get started by talking about Calder here on Earth, and our bonds continue. And so what it was like here with him on Earth. And I know that obviously that's continued for you. How many years ago was it that he died?
So Calder transitioned in 2014. It'll be this April, it'll be 12 years. So Kira was a year ago?
2 years, yeah. 2 years ago for Kira, which is mind-blowing that I could sit here, because 2 years, for anyone that's listening that has experienced loss, I definitely had a unimaginable amount of grief and suffering. But for me, I feel like it did lift pretty quickly with this high connection that I had, and this truth of knowing that, separation is an illusion. By about 9 months, I was just getting so much, and I was in this really high energy that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in the physical world that I could feel this good and have my daughter that has died. It's because I still feel extremely connected to her. So tell me about Calder.
I have to say that, Becky, I'm so in awe of you, because I've been watching your journey since I found out about you and met you through Jane and Medium Curious. And that the way you have embraced, the energy just is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, everyone's journey, especially with grief, is different. And I was such a zombie and so heavily medicated when Calder crossed, and I was drinking. That needed to be. Mm-hmm. So I feel like what happened was I dulled out my ability to connect at that time. I was just, because I'll tell you a little bit about Calder. So Calder crossed 7 days after his 7th birthday, which is a huge number in New Zealand and many religions. But I was moving so fast, and you know how it is. You're living life. You do not have a thought of, every parent thinks I have to protect my kids, but you don't think your child is actually going to be taken or cross over. So he was, and still is, which you'll hear from many of my stories, is just this high energy. He always was high energy, always laughing, always with a big smile. And I'm always amazed that when I meet other parents, I so often feel that our children are connected as well. I feel like they're still connected on the other side, even though they never met here on Earth. How could they have?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're all connected. We're actually every sentient being, everything is connected, but that we can see those connections as they connect us, you and I have experienced it where you get a piece and I get a piece and our signs connect, and there's these long, intricate threads. But really, it is much easier for me to have these connections with, there's several other moms with children on the other side where, her daughter's giving her a piece, and then I get a piece, and then we're getting them, and then we piece it together on this little spiritual scavenger hunt. And those are the mind-blowing things, that it's not that my daughter met your son on the other side, but for me, it's like they always knew each other before they came here, because we make these agreements. And especially now on Earth, what we're experiencing is ascension, and that Kira has helped me understand that I made this agreement with her. We came into this lifetime that she would die. I know it's crazy to say. I mean, listening to myself, sometimes I'm like, what? But that she would die, and that she would be able to bring this energy through, really to bring this vibration so that we can all bring this onto the earth. That it was always coming, and our children are a big part of it, because they're not children, they're expansive souls. And we could feel that. I mean, right now I could feel Calder, and they have huge energy. They broke the internet.
Was that me? Did I do it?
Okay, good. Yeah. So we just got kicked off again. As soon as I start talking about ascension, the internet, you get kicked off this time. Anyways, so I love this. I mean, it's just such high vibes. So yeah, I know, I sometimes say I believe, but what I know to be true for my experience is that, yeah, our kids do know each other, because we were always going to be here in this experience. And it's big. And that we met each other, synchronicities with you end up on the Medium Curious podcast with my friend Jane. So that is actually a breadcrumb for me. Jane invites me on the podcast. I have not started this podcast yet, but I was getting signs around it. And when I listened to our episode, so it was you and I and Jane and Sarah, and I listened to it and I was like, wow, because I was listening to myself say things, but it almost didn't sound like me. It felt, our whole conversation just flowed so beautifully. And I was being shown that, like, you could really help people, or actually just shown that this is where I needed to go next. And you were a part of that. And when I went to listen to your episode, it was on May 22nd, which was 22 is the number that Kira is always sending. So Calder, he transitions 7 days after his 7th birthday. I want to also let you know that right before we got on this call, my friend sent me a picture of 222777, something, which is Kira's the 2s, and you have this connection to 7s. So they're just coming in this to tell us your child transitioning at 7 years old. And I know you have a younger son that was 5 years old at the time. And you talked about drinking or numbing out. And I think that makes so much sense. The amount of grief and pain that comes with this kind of unimaginable loss, that you would reach for anything to fix it. And so all of that makes sense. Anything that anybody does makes sense, because I really do believe that I can't even, people say, I can't imagine. I'm like, I can't either. And I lived through it.
Right. I completely agree with you. Yeah. The initial pain is unfathomable. And I remember as I went back to write the book, I started to realize that Calder had been contacting me from the beginning, but I was so out of it, I couldn't grasp it. Also, I was so disconnected from this world, from spirituality, from the idea that we lived on, that our energy was ever present, and that we had this high energy between the kids and ourselves. Like you said, we're connected, which hilariously is the name of my Substack, because it's about connected stories. Yeah. And so he started, but I just thought I was crazy. Like, I would go to bed at night after I took care of our younger son, Caleb, and I would be dozing off, and I would see lips coming towards me. Like, you know, when you close your eyes and in your mind's eye, you'll see something and I would sit up and open my eyes, because it also felt energetic. So I thought, am I dizzy? What's happening here? And he kept doing it until finally I accepted. I was like, oh, I feel like this is a kiss from Calder, but I just kind of put it away. I was like, that's neat. Okay, I'm crazy. I can't tell anyone about this. And then he was relentless with the signs, until finally my husband got a reading with a medium. And that literally changed my life, because once he played the record, he didn't even tell me he got it, but he played the recording for me. And I thought, I wanted it to be true so bad. I went the other way. I thought, this can't be true. There's got to be a trick here. But I wanted it to be true. And there was no other explanation for the information. This man, AJ Barrera, who I've never seen before or since, brought through all this information. And I thought, okay, there's something bigger going on here. And I went through the process of quitting the meds, stopping drinking, and I really embraced it. I thought, and then I got the bright idea, if other people can be mediums, maybe I could be a medium. So I went on this whole journey to become a medium, but I didn't think, if you weren't born like talking about it since you were 2 years old, I didn't understand anyone could do it that was called to do it.
Okay, so what you're describing about Calder, seeing something and feeling like you're crazy, right? I feel like what I have experienced is a lot of people, even people that don't have children on the other side, are starting to experience this more and more, where they're having dreams and then they see that the person that they've never seen in their life, and they see him the next day. A lot of these higher consciousness explainable things are happening, and it's happening more and more and more frequently to people. And like you, they think, well, I must be crazy. I don't want to talk to anybody about this. But it is actually becoming more and more common. At least I feel like it is. Do you feel like it is, that more and more people are?
I completely feel like it is. And for a while, I felt like it was so common all of a sudden in my life, and seeing it with other people, that I thought, is it just because now I am tuned into this frequency that they just keep showing me different people? But it's much happening with everyone for it to be just us. I hear, like, now it feels like everyone has experiences and talks about it. And I don't know if it's because we see things on social media all the time, and I just see it all the time, or even hearing people on podcasts talk about it. Not just your podcast or Medium Curious, but mainstream podcasts like Amy Poehler's podcast.
It's happening. I mean, it is not, it's happening everywhere. Yes. So two things. One, I do believe, like you, that what happened for me is Kira dies and I massively start experiencing a wild amount of signs, connections. And what happened was all these people started coming to me. People are like, wow, you're paying attention. It's like, no, this was not happening before. Out of everywhere I go, this is, first of all, it's what I'm talking about. And second of all, I'm meeting people on the plane. I mean, my doctor that started working with me 6 months before Kira dies, he's super connected. Everyone. And do I think that everyone out there is having an experience where everyone they come into contact with is having these? No, I don't think it's everyone. But for me, and maybe for you, it feels like everyone. My frequency, my energy attracts people that are connected to this. I call it forerunner energy. 144. I see that number. It's like 144,000 light workers. And I always say, this doesn't mean that we are better or that we figured something out. Like, this is what we came here to do. And so I believe everyone is going to wake up. I just woke up faster, and it was always going to be that way. And when you talk about observing me and what I'm doing, it's the energy. It's the only explanation of how I do everything I do, because I'm kind of like, this is a dream. So I've seen too much. I'm like, I experience breaking out of the illusion all the time. And so I don't care if people think that I'm crazy, because I know I am not.
Right. Well, it took me a while to get there. I remember trying to talk. I have a different group of friends, and it kind of shifts once you awake, unless you're lucky you have friends around you who also speak the language and understand this. I remember people would want to take me out for coffee or just try to get me out of the house because I was still in that deep grieving. And
Yeah.
I would go out for coffee, and this is all I wanted to talk about. I got this sign. I got this. This happened. And I remember sitting across from a couple of different people, and I started to tell this story, and one person said, yeah, I don't believe in that, so let's talk about something else. And I thought, I don't have anything else to talk about right now.
Yes.
Like, this
Won't be
is my
won't be going to
whole.
coffee with you anymore.
But here's the thing about that story. So 2 months later, someone in her family was crossing, and she was in the hospital room when something happened. And she called me, to her credit, and she said, I get it now. I didn't get it when we had coffee, but I get it now. And I thought, oh, maybe I was meant to tell her that so she wouldn't think she was crazy, and she believed what was happening in that hospital room.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's why I kind of share it everywhere I go. And what I do encounter is I don't encounter many people, like, at least outwardly telling me they think that I'm crazy. But I did have people in the beginning that were so sad and so grief stricken. I mean, Kira was 15 years old, beautiful, full of light, here 1 minute and gone the next, just like Calder. And, a lot of people love her and connected to her. So when I was sharing these wild signs, I mean, we had hundreds in the first 2 weeks, and it just kept going, and they were long and elaborate threads. The people that were still very much sad, and I was too, but I was like, guys, there's like something wild happening here. They would look at me like, your child died. Like, that's the way I felt. And when I would feel that frequency mismatch, I guess that's what I would call it, which is they weren't in a position to be able to hear me for whatever reason. It's totally okay. I just would be like, okay, I'm not going to connect with that person, because when you experience this deep grief, like, I just knew that I had to find people that helped me feel good, hence Feel Good Always. And Kira came up with the name, and I did feel good connecting with other people. And I want to talk about Helping Parents Heal, because Helping Parents Heal is a group of, it's for grieving parents, but it really is about this. It's not just about standing around and crying, and that's okay too if people need grief groups. It just wasn't really for me. But Helping Parents Heal is about connecting to your children. And I went to the conference, and what was amazing there, and this was right before I skyrocketed, is that I was there with 1,000 other parents, where they had mediums, where they had every talk was about this connection, where everyone in the room was talking about my child as if she still exists. And we were talking about each other's children and who they are now and who they were when they were here on earth. And I just had this, like, I feel it so much in my body right now. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if I could live in this world all the time, where culture and society understood the truth, because it felt so real. And what happened is I left that conference, and that is what happened. I live in that world where everyone around me is experiencing that right along with me, and like, anything is possible. And it's true. Nothing has ever been more true than our children still exist. And thank you to mediums like you that help people get past that point, past the point of wondering if this is really real. And I get that. I needed to do that too. But
Right.
and we've talked about how everyone has this ability, different abilities, because you see things that I don't see. We all have, but we have ability to connect on our own.
So, interestingly enough, I am now an affiliate group leader for Helping Parents Heal here in Miami. Yeah. It was that feeling that you're talking about. I didn't know Helping Parents Heal yet, but I knew that when I was with mediums or I was with people talking about this, that is what helped me feel good. Always. Exactly. Always. Every time I had an experience, every time I had a conversation. And so slowly, it took me a while to somewhat extract myself from the life I thought I should go back to, which was that bio you read about producing TV and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, that's not it. And I have to be in this world where I feel good, and there's so much more. And so that's when I really started opening myself up to the possibility that I could connect. And I remember one of the women, I went to this conference in Canada of just mediums. And one of the very experienced mediums said, she goes, everyone can connect to their own loved ones. Everyone. If
Mm-hmm.
someone dies, chances are you'll have a dream, they'll come visit you, they'll tell you they're okay. She goes, the difference is when you become a medium, if you want to and you're called to, the difference is you're connecting with someone else's loved one who you've never met. That's just the subtle difference. Of course, we can feel our own loved ones. But I wanted to go back to Kira's energy because it's so. I feel like Kira and Calder have this huge energy because everyone can feel them around. It's so interesting to me. And I didn't even understand energy when I started this work. But another mother from a Suzanne Giesemann workshop, who's a medium, a very famous medium nowadays. And this other mother and I were just trying to feel it out and be like, can I bring your child through? Can you bring. And she said something to me that just blew me open. She said, I feel Calder's energy, but it's so big. She couldn't explain it. She was like, if you look at a screen door and you see that mesh and how tiny those holes are. She goes, Calder's is the opposite. It's like lattice work and it's huge and it's everywhere. And I thought, oh, that is what I'm feeling. This big, it's like big bursts of energy. And I feel like Kira's the same way.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, and it's interesting as a medium. So I had to learn that because I was connecting to Kira and I was connecting to angels, and like you, I was always a calm person. I would see signs. I would surrender to the flow of my life. I believed there was something bigger happening here, but nothing. I wasn't thinking about the other side. I just wasn't. But what I learned afterwards, after Kira, because I experienced the same thing, lots of signs and connections, is that I had always been connecting with people's higher selves. That's why people always kind of felt comfortable around me and calm, because I could kind of say the right thing. And now Kira taught me that you've always been connecting to people's higher selves, like you've already been doing it. And really understanding that because I was connecting to Kira, I was a medium, which means we're all, anybody that's connecting, if you are in connection with the other side at all through just signs, you are a medium between, you're that vessel between the other side and earth. And so, yes, we all have that capability. And I think there's we're having a conscious experience. And really, I needed to almost like unbrainwash myself after Kira died. And I would listen to podcasts, and I just knew that I needed to undo any idea. I mean, actually, what I experienced today is I could have absolutely, I'm not talking about just connecting to the other side. I am talking about being like realizing that this is a dream, like I had a near death experience or something. Like it's way beyond comprehension. I'm more grounded in it, but for a long time I was like, what's happening here? I just would watch myself talk, but that we all have this amazing capability, and it's coming on more and more and more people, and we're just the forerunners. So what I think about it is a period of time, and as we're kind of watching the world, especially in the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years and more right now, that maybe it appears there's a lot of suffering, right? There's a lot of holding on to, I say, like the patriarchy is holding on for dear life, that when the divine feminine is trying to come in, and that people, I think the difference maybe between you and me is, it's the timing, because when Kira died, the energy on the earth was different from when Calder died. I mean, there's plenty of people that their children have died around when Kira and aren't experiencing what I'm experiencing. We all come here with a blueprint. But I think what I experience is also has to do with where the energy is on the earth, and this massive collective awakening that's happening, and that she was going to go as humanity is just wildly waking up, and at the same time can appear to be crumbling all around us, which is, I don't know about, you and I have both experienced the worst possible thing. So for me, I can remain calm and know that we are being helped and guided and that I will be shown, and I surrender, it's like, what else is my life going to do to me? Yeah, more bad stuff could happen, but I can stay way more calm now. And I believe that is the energy that I'm being fed from the other side.
I completely agree with you. I feel like it's so interesting to me that you use the word surrender, because that was one of my big lessons, that you could ask for guidance, ask for help, but then you have to just assume it's coming and stop like perseverating on it, or just like going over and over it in your head. You just surrender it. And the couple of times I've done that, it has been so amazing that it just appeared. I wrote a story about one of these on my Substack. I also recently had an experience where it's silly. This was a silly little thing. Wasn't like a big thing, but I had listened to that podcast, the telepathy tapes, and there was this one kid on there, John Paul, and he was just so full of love. And all the kids are autistic. And that same year that podcast came out and John Paul died, my friend's son died, who was also autistic, but she had always done fundraisers to raise money for the autism world. And so I was, my lights are blinking, one of her fundraisers, and I was thinking, I think I was listening to one of those podcasts in the car, and then I bought some raffle tickets, and I got back in my car, and I said, okay, to John Paul and her son. I was like, okay, boys, I put my raffle ticket in this bucket. And I really wanted that one thing. So if you guys can make it happen, that'd be great. If not, don't worry about it. And I drove away, and I was like, okay, now I'm talking to people about silly raffles or whatever. And I got home, and literally 4 hours later, I got the call that I had won. I completely forgot that I even bought the raffle tickets. But I thought, oh, that's your lesson. You just have to ask and then let it go.
Yeah, which that's so interesting. I had an experience recently like that too. So like I pray usually for whatever, it used to be like whatever God's will, whatever my life's will, whatever, I don't ask for specific things because I always am like, I surrender, you'll know what's good. But recently I had a friend that was talking about praying and praying to Kira or praying for Kira. That was interesting. I was like, well, what do you mean praying for Kira? Because I'm thinking, if anything, I'm praying to her because she doesn't need my help. I don't need to pray for her. She's fine. But then it opened this interesting conversation around prayer and like whether, because I have never really asked. And so I was actually, this whole thing happens, this whole conversation around praying and me kind of saying, well, I don't pray for things. And I go hiking right after that. I lose my key. It's dark. It's getting dark. I'm at the river. My phone is dead. And long story short, all this stuff happens. Finally, I get a hold of my husband. He's coming, and I've already went back on the trail multiple times. And I've just literally right before I got on the hike talked about, I don't pray. And then I finally went, now this is the third time I'm going back on the trail. And I said, okay, Kira, can you please give me my key? Help me find my key. Literally 30 seconds later, right there in the middle of the trail. So I was like, okay. So you're saying that I can pray for certain things. Yeah. I've also won raffles, like those kind of things. I don't pray for everyone that kind of knows this energy is like, of course you won.
Right.
Because it's like, yeah, it's knowing that there's that they can decide when I say they, I am referring to Calder and Kira and our higher selves and this massive energy that is so much bigger than what's inside of only a piece of us is in these bodies, that this beautiful team can decide how we're going to have this conversation. And I could choose to get frustrated that my internet is crashing and the tech difficulties, or I could literally, if it would have completely crashed, I had thoughts that were like, maybe I'm not supposed to podcast anymore. I don't know. I surrender. It's like,
right.
I believe they will keep showing us. And I want to say too, we just came into 2026 and 2024 was the worst year of my life. Clearly, my daughter had just died. And 2025, a lot of people had a really hard year. And I did too on the outside looking in. My daughter-in-law, Abby, her dad died. My daughter ended up in the hospital. One of my
Oh, yeah.
close friends died by suicide. But I had the most calm year because it was so calm. It doesn't mean that I didn't cry every day, over Kira, but this beautiful energy of surrender. And can I remain calm and peaceful in any experience? Even my daughter in the hospital, with a super dangerous appendix burst, danger of sepsis, all of this, because I've seen too much. And it doesn't mean, this is kind of a crazy thing to say, but it doesn't mean that everyone's going to live. That doesn't mean that if somebody else did die, that I wouldn't be crushed and have to experience all of that. I'm just not afraid. Because
Right.
I'm like, it's a blueprint that we're living out, I couldn't save Kira. She was always going, same thing with Calder.
Right. It was such
And I
a
think there's so much peace in knowing the truth of that, that we can't make a wrong turn, that death can't separate us.
right. It's interesting because I feel like 100% agree with all that, and I feel like I was so in a hurry. In a hurry. Like, even once I found out the spiritual path, I was like, okay, I have to be a medium. I still, like, kind of put my old energy into it. And then I started to get consistent signs and things from Calder saying, slow down. Like, slow down. It's all happening in divine timing. Which is hilarious to me that I say that all the time now, because if someone had said that to me before all of this, I would have been like, okay, woo woo. But now I get it. That's what that means. It's like once you experience it, you understand the meaning behind it. It's so amazing.
It's a felt experience. And I'm learning too, same thing. Also, I would have been like, what? There's a lot of things that I say now. Oh, it's just energy. I mean, I remember when somebody referred to COVID as just energy. My friend Lacey, she was actually on the podcast. Oh, it's all just energy. I was like, no, it's it's like, it's a virus, and I get that it is a virus and it's also energy. So there's just, it's interesting. And so same thing now, like I try not to judge really anything because my beliefs about things can change through my experience. And I definitely would have thought this chick is crazy, but about myself.
Right.
But I don't care. I don't care and I'm so grateful that we find each other in this lifetime, that I know that this is all true, and that there are people that came before me. Suzanne Giesman, you talked about her. She's a medium, that her stepdaughter died by lightning, and she kind of was awakened at that point and has been able, and she was like in the military. And I think a lot of people take her serious because she wasn't woo-woo before, and she's massively connected, and all these people like that. And I needed to listen to her podcasts. I was searching for near-death experiences and all of this. And then what's happened is that my experience has skyrocketed so much that there's just like no one for me we have to have our own experience because everybody's experience is different. Once I believe, it's just like, oh, there's so much. All the people that have found me, and that we find each other, that we were always going to.
I know, that's so that's another story. So the woman I run the Helping Parent Heal affiliate group with here in Miami is Catherine, and she went to the conference that you went to. I didn't make it that year. And she came back. I had done a reading for her, which was my first, like, okay, I'm going to do a reading for someone in my community. This could be like, I'm out of the closet now. So this happened.
Yeah, out of the spiritual closet.
Yes, exactly. And she came back and she goes, we should start an affiliate group. I looked at her, I said, really? And she goes, yeah, I feel like this was such an incredible experience. And we did. And it was just like Field of Dreams. If you start it, they will come. Like, people started coming. It's the most beautiful thing to connect with these parents. They all have experiences, but they didn't have anywhere to discuss it because you can't talk about it in other grief groups. They almost put we don't talk about that here. And I was like, we do. Over here, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, find the places where you can talk about it. I talk about it kind of everywhere I go, and I did talk about it in the grief group because I have a frequency that comes through me. So wherever I was going, it was happening. I mean, there was stuff happening while I was in the grief groups, and there were people for me to meet there, which I did, and that's why I'm sure I was there. And like, if we could have a world, which we're going to, where everything is like these helping parents heal experiences and kind of everywhere. I mean, I'm watching it happen. So you started this group. Is this helping parents heal? Is it in person or is it online?
We do ours in person. It's myself and Catherine Prescott. We're in Miami, and we like to have it in person because it's just nice to be in
That's
the same
awesome.
room with. And then we have what you and I were talking about, which is connected signs. We had one over the holidays. I came up with a crafty project so we could all make something for our children's spirit for the holidays. Either if you were someone who had a Christmas tree, you can make a Christmas tree ornament. Anyway, we're sitting there in Catherine's house, and she has this big glass window, and one of my signs from Calder is a dragonfly. So we're sitting there setting up everything, and this dragonfly is like hitting the window, like tap, 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 tap. And I said, "Do you see that?" And she was like, of course he's here. They're all here at all times, letting us know and being like, have fun. Exactly what your podcast is all about, which is why I'm in awe of this, is because feel good always is how we should live our lives. We shouldn't be so just tense. And I know people go through hard times and money's tight and the economy's wacky, but it's if you can find that thing that brings you joy on a daily basis, I just feel like that's what it's about.
And that is the message that I get. I mean, Kira spelled out feel good always. And so when I embark upon this journey of sharing as I have, it's like trying to find my niche. Like I'm not really talking about grief. I mean, I am, but I'm simultaneously talking about connection and talking about living fully. And it's not that I'm living fully without Kira. She's with me in everything. And it's a feeling, there's not words. I could tell you a really beautiful thread of a lot of connection, and you lose people after the second or third connection because it's a feeling. And I'm just here to really transmit this frequency of possibility, of blowing people's minds. And that's the only reason I say that, is because they reflect that back to me, that watching my experience, and it's all real. Doesn't mean that I don't cry, but I'm also sitting at a really high vibration because, when Kira died, we remained connected, and she just like blasted me to the stars, basically. And it was hard, it was really, really hard. But most of the time I live presently, it's really good. And I was shown that all the people were coming. So that's you, that's Jane, it's everyone I have on this podcast. And that as soon as I start talking to you, we start getting signs and connections. You told me you get hearts for Calder, and within a couple hours, my cousin sent me this picture of Kira with hearts. Yes, you have all these hearts behind you. And I have sunflowers behind me and the ocean, and Kira's signs are endless, infinite. But I do specifically sometimes ask, that's why I asked what his sign was, so that I know. Usually kids will give me their own signs, they'll show it to me, and they're always communicating for me, it's through signs, lots of merged consciousness, where your gifts, your evidential medium, where you're bringing through evidence of like what was happening before. What I do is more like most people already believe, or by the time they are listening to this, I think most people that are listening to this podcast are they're past needing the evidence. Even if you believe, the piece that you can give, like tell the deer story about how the medium told you about the deer.
Okay, I'll tell you. I was also just thinking about this. So my very first experience with the kids being connected on the other side was also in that same medium. Laura Lynn Jackson said during my reading, she was saying, I don't know why your son's bringing this up, but he's bringing up my friend's son who just crossed, whose name is Caleb. And you're not supposed to talk during the reading. So I was just like, that's my younger son's name. And
Yeah.
but I didn't say that. So during the reading, she goes, oh, your son's saying he has a Caleb on the other side, and there's a Caleb here. Your other son is named Caleb. And so that was so amazing to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, how could this be possible that this is happening? And she knows all this. And then fast forward to me having those experiences myself. And then just this last Christmas, I became friends with another mom whose son had crossed, and I thought she had had many readings, so we were just friends talking. She's in Helping Parents Heal, and I said, well, what did they say in your reading? And she said, oh, I've never had a reading. And I said, well, if you want a reading, I'll give you a reading. And we set it up, and the boys came in, like Calder was right there, and they came in together, and then like during the course of this whole thing and all the evidence that came through, first I got a book that her mother used to read her son. Then I got the fact that there was a cherub sitting on the shelf right above her that looked like her son. And then when I wrote the whole story down, I found a picture where the boys look almost identical. It's crazy the way they're all connected. And I thought, they're all connected, just like you're saying. But in that, I'll go back to the deer story. So in that this is what really, like, I had so many experiences that I had to have to open me up. So during that reading, Calder said, I'm going to send my mom a deer to have an experience with. You know, you get the information. You're just the transmitter. And she was like, okay, so that's what he's saying. And that you're going on a trip and it's going to happen on a trip. And I thought, okay, months down the line, we were going to go to England. And I thought, I guess there are deer in England. But then we just didn't think about it again. Surrender. And we moved on to other stuff. And I got home, and within 24 hours, Chris is like, okay, we're going to Key West. And we're driving down to Key West. I had at this time lived here for a decade. And I never knew there were deer in Key West. There's a special breed of deer called key deer that are very small. And so we're driving down. Chris did not react well to hearing the name Caleb, that there was a dead child named Caleb on the other side. So he did not want to hear the reading. So I didn't tell him about the deer. So we're driving down there late at night, and I kind of doze off, and Chris is like, whoa, look at that. And he wakes me up, and I said, what? And he said, 4 key deer right there on the side of the road. I've never seen that before. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? I thought, oh, I missed it. I missed my sign. Calder set this whole thing up. I thought he was setting it up, and I had missed it, and I was just deflated. And for the whole weekend, I was just turning it over in my mind. How did I miss it? How does this happen? Was it okay that Chris just told me? You know how you do all that stuff. And then we leave the Keys and we're driving home, and we stop for a second so Chris can go into this particular place, the No Name Pub in Big Pine Key. And I'm sitting in the car in the parking lot because Caleb's dozed off in the back. And I see that there's a bush that's kind of moving at the end of the parking lot. And as I'm looking at it, a little deer comes out of the bushes and starts walking in the parking lot and makes a beeline directly for me. And I'm just frozen, and I'm thinking, it's happening. Like, I have to get my camera. I'm so nervous. I don't want to scare the deer. And I open the door and I pull out my 35 millimeter camera. I was still carrying that around, and which makes a loud noise when you click it. And so I take a couple of pictures of it far away, but it just doesn't stop coming, and it comes all the way up to me. And I put my hand out to be like, maybe I don't know. And it put its nose right in my hand. And right as it did, Chris walked out of the pub and took a picture. He was able to capture it on his phone. He is the master of catching the picture. But he was like, what's happening? Because at that point he knew. Because after I cried when I missed the first deer, I had told him. And he was like, this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. And we both had that feeling. Like, Calder to make sure we all saw it.
Because that is just a wildly beautiful experience that actually is so, undeniable that a deer, a wild animal, would put their nose in your hand. It's just,
Right.
we also started experiencing deer, like everyone around us. And then some people, like, they would always see a deer the day before they saw me or right after. We had this whole theme. And some people would be like, oh, well, there's always deer here. And it's like, it doesn't matter if there's always
Right.
deer. It's still a sign. And that's the thing, is it could be really like, for you at that time, it was probably like you really needed that big sign, which we got a lot of those too. And we still do.
I was just remembering. So that deer story, like people would ask me about it, and a friend of mine's mother crossed like a year later, and she asked me about this story. I told her about it, even though she had read it. And she texted me the next day. She was driving home. Her mother had just died. And just like you said, a big deer walked into the middle of the road and stopped their car. And it's not a coincidence.
No.
It was so her mother could say, I'm okay. I'm still with you.
And it could be that simple. It could be anything. I mean, for us, all of our family saw a deer separately. I mean, there's just so many things, but I always tell people that it could be anything. And that it's when we stop discounting it and trying to explain it away, just know that anything that has matter can be a connection, because we're all connected. It's podcasts like this, it's medium readings, it's reading the books, it's really bringing it, for me, changing the frequency and filling myself up so that I could move that human part out of me that had a belief system that this couldn't be real. And then once that was gone, and then it was just like, I mean, I was being helped by a team. I mean, I could hear Kira saying lots of things. It just didn't really make sense to me because I had never experienced it. And it's way beyond, signs. Like you said, it's a feeling, but it's coming for everyone. So if people are listening, it's like, just keep seeking and keep listening to yourself and to your life, and find the people that can continue to validate, because there's more and more of us. We're not crazy. I mean, people that are listening to this don't think we are, but you're not crazy. That's what I say, like, you're not. And if you find yourself doubting it, then find more people to help you remember. I want to ask you, because you're a medium, and you do this for your work now. I know you do lots of things. You're running this foundation, and you're doing all this work in the world really to help people, helping people through your foundation, but then also really this work as a medium, helping people make that connection. And we all have our piece, right? So and you were talking about how anybody could do this. So if somebody wanted to become a medium, we're all capable, but yeah, you went and got some specific training. So what did that look like?
So what that looked like was, and I feel like so many people woke up during COVID. So what it looked like, first I went to a couple of just weekend seminars that were about something broader, like just spiritualism, but they would have little events where they'd say, okay, now go off in a room, and if you brought something, and we do psychometry where you would hold something in your hand, stranger, and say what you got, or write down what you got and then read it to them. And that happened so strongly that what I was holding felt like fire in my hand, which I had never experienced energy like that, where you could feel it in your body. And so that ignited me, literally, and I was able to get validation on all the information I gave that person. And then I thought, oh, maybe I have a knack for this. And during COVID, myself, Eliza, the mom of Caleb, and Sarah all took a course with Suzanne Giesman on Zoom on the Shift Network. And that opened us up, because just like this, when you can feel the energy when you're talking to someone aligned, there were hundreds, maybe 1,000 people on that Zoom. And the more people are there, the stronger the energy is. And so we had that experience for the first time where we were like, oh, we can feel the energy. We're feeling it through the computer. What? Yeah. And so I just started taking classes, and I still do things to tune up and expand my abilities. And I found the right teachers. You really want to find the right people. You want to find, like, Suzanne's well-known. The Shift Network has really well-known mediums on there you can learn from. The mediums that Sarah and Jane have on their podcast you can learn from. I don't teach classes yet because I'm still working on my
I'm
book,
hearing it
which I
won't be long. Because it happens
people
so
ask me.
fast. It
Right.
happens so fast. I mean, the amount of ability. So if someone's listening and you don't have any of this yet, like this, you just started this work like less than 5 years ago. And look at
Yeah.
how connected you are. I mean, you were connected, but actually being able to do medium readings. And the same thing for me. It's like the amount that I have been, my abilities have skyrocketed in a very short time. So we're going to
Wow.
need the forerunners to be teaching everybody else because it's coming. It's
Yeah.
coming for all of us as we all move into these higher levels of consciousness till we're just all telepathic. We already are. It's just as we belief systems come into, if there's enough of us, then it's over, over in the
And
sense
that's
that it
the
is done.
right. And it's believing. And I will say one of the things this work has taught me, because like I said, I didn't think of myself as a medium from a young child, which when you reflect, you're like, oh, that could have been a psychic experience. That could have been something. Oh, I did predict that. But I just didn't think about that. And once you start doing it, you have to believe it. Like
Yeah.
there's this self doubt in the beginning. Like, oh, Kira said this. Or like after that podcast we did with the girls with Medium Curious, Ladybug started landing on me. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to text Becky about this. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
always being like, hi, it's true. Let me give you a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
excitement in your day.
And that's the beautiful thing is like at some point I filled up like 2 notes app in my Apple iPhone, like the notes, 2 full
Mm-hmm.
ones. That's how many notes. And then I went like, I don't have to keep track of this. Like it's not going to stop. And I couldn't keep
Right.
track. Now I take pictures and stuff because I share so much on social media, but and I like to look at it. I'll take pictures, but I can't, there's no way I could keep track. People tell me you should write a book. I'm like, I could like write a book about yesterday. There's so much that happens, but it's not a book. It's an experience that we're all about to have. I'm already having it, you're having it, and we're just helping other
Mm-hmm.
people come into it. So we are running out of time. Who knows how long this has been because they've kicked us off several times. But I want to ask you the last question that I want to ask you is 2 questions. You already kind of talked about the medium thing, but what I like to ask people is like, how do you stay calm and connected if there's like people that are listening that or any kind of advice around this spirituality? And then the second question is, how do you feel good always? What does it mean to
Okay,
you?
well, it's interesting because I've been having some very human things go on in my life right now with family members and whatnot. And I do have trouble holding on to my calm and connection during those times. And I have to recalibrate, I have to meditate. But if something is in my energetic field that is really worrisome, I'll have to take days off. I just can't do it because it's just too many things coming at once. When I am centered and I am there, I can just release to the spirit coming through. I had a friend call me during that period and she was like, I have this woman. She really needs a reading. She's in deep grief. And I said, okay, I'm having a lot of stuff going on, but I'll do this because you reached out to me and I feel like it's aligned. And I did do the reading and it was a learning experience for both of us. It was exactly what she needed to hear. And I got a lesson out of it as well.
Yeah, we're learning. So the other thing is, what does feel good always mean to you?
Well, it's really feel good always, as I was saying, is about my spiritual path, but it's also about because I am a giver and I am a healer and I want to help people, I run myself ragged until I'm sick and I have
Yeah.
to really pay attention to my own energy and not feel guilty about doing stuff for myself and taking care of myself. And really finding even a few minutes to do something silly like painting or going for a walk by myself without my phone. Just these simple things. And I do truly believe, as I know you believe, Becky, being out in nature is just the best. It's so calming, and I'm definitely a believer that trees have souls, and I just
Hmm.
sometimes get and sit next to a tree. I love it. I've had several occasions where I'll just be drawn to take a picture of a tree because they're just so majestic and beautiful. And I'll look at the picture later and I will see a face in the trunk of the tree. Like the tree is like, yeah, that's right. You
Yeah.
see me.
Nature, trees, all the things you're saying about, yeah, like feel good always is the same stuff I get. Taking care of ourselves, that some of the most spiritual thing that we can do is taking care of ourselves first, especially when it feels like the world is crumbling around us. We have to take care of ourselves first. And if everybody was to do that, then we could raise the vibration like that. And we're learning. I mean, me too. I get sick. I get run down. And it's not that I did anything wrong. It's not that I did anything wrong. It's just a reminder that I have to continue to take care of myself first so that I can do this big work, because we can't do it all and not take care of ourselves first. And the more we take care of ourselves, the more we need. Yeah. So
Well,
thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm going to include everything, the way that people can get a hold of you through Substack, through social media, your website, your foundation, all of that in the show notes. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on today. So thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Until next time.
thank you. And thank you for doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I love it. It's been so good. Thanks to the kids that let us finish it.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Carla. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, you can do that now. That really helps push it out there and make sure that you don't miss an episode. Leave a comment if you're on YouTube or on Spotify. That also really helps push it out there when people are interacting. And I try to go into the comments and respond. And I love to hear your stories as you connect to these podcasts. I want to remind you that Andrea and I are holding a retreat in Costa Rica. I have included all of the information in the show notes about that. It is going to be a spectacular time where we are going to really connect to ourselves, connect to the community, to nature, and really experience all that we experience here on this Feel Good Always podcast. I know all the people that are supposed to be there will be there, and maybe it's you. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time.